Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army. Army officers say the missile, found sometime last week, has been inspected at Roswell, New Mexico, and sent to Wright Field, Ohio, for further inspection.
Very serious.
Non-human intelligence exists. UAPs are real. They're here, and they're not human.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots?
Biologics came to some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years.
What else you want to know?
$7 was...
Welcome, everybody, to Across the Pond, the podcast that dares to uncover the mysteries lurking beyond the veil of reality, from government cover-ups and secret experiments to hauntings, cryptids, and UFO encounters. We explore the unexplained and the conspiracies that keep them hidden. And it has been way too long since I have done that intro, because I've been incredibly busy. I'm your host, Stijn Fawkes, the only non-Brit of the podcast. That includes my guest for today, because I have with me here Miss Kate Cherrell. Am I saying that correctly?
It's Cherrell, but you can pronounce it however you want.
So many different names, okay. So many different pronunciations. Yeah. Cherrell. Okay. Right. Great start.
Honestly, no one gets it right first time, so it's absolutely fine.
Okay, well, I'm not the only one. That's good. That's good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're in good company.
Yeah, but thank you so much for joining me at this time, and for those who may not be familiar with you or your work just yet. First of all, have you been living under a rock? I mean, come on, she's pretty well known. But for those who have been living under a rock, introduce yourself. Who are you? What do you do? What's your secrets?
Oh, now that is ominous. I'm Kate Cherrell, sometimes billed as Dr Kate Cherrell. I'm a writer and broadcaster, and I work primarily as a paranormal historian. So I spend a lot of my time writing about ghosts, talking about ghosts. I lecture all over the place. And my real passion is sort of the Victorian age of the ghost story and spiritualism and the start of psychical research. So I'm very much entrenched in the world of miserable Victorians in many different ways. But over my time in the paranormal, I have done various TV shows where I've done paranormal investigation. I've appeared solely as a paranormal historian. And I write books now. Wrote my first novel this year. I've got some more nonfiction books coming out next year. And my whole life is based around ghosts, which makes me probably the worst dinner party guest you could ever have. I will clear a room, so that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
I mean, not in my household. My wife and I, we love everything spooky, everything ghastly, ghostly, hauntings.
That's perfect.
She is a medium, so like she actually,
wonderful.
Doesn't just talk about them. She also talks with them.
Yeah.
Sometimes she'll have the best conversations. I'm just sitting there like, this is at my expense, isn't it? Yeah. So that's great, but what got you, like, you were like deep into the paranormal. There are very little people who actually make it their entire living. I mean, you're dealing with the past and with the dead, so I can understand.
Yeah.
But what got you into it? What got you into the paranormal, into the whole spiritualism?
Yeah. I suppose the short answer, because I can really waffle on about this for ages. The short answer is that I've had. Oh well, in that case,
Floor's yours.
Well, I think like many of us, I had I was always the weird kid. So I'm always interested in fellow weird kids that have now grown up and got jobs. It's like, oh, my people. So I grew up, I was completely obsessed with the paranormal and UFOs and aliens. Less so cryptids as a child, because I wasn't too sure where they fit in, but certainly the supernatural, ghosts and aliens. Because growing up in the 90s, when you had in the UK things like Strange But True, you had the X-Files over in the States. It was kind of like prime time for for malleable minds to really find where they want to be in the world. So I already had those interests from the pop culture around me. My granddad at the time was a very ordinary working class man, but had this sort of secret interest in the paranormal and with UFOs and aliens, especially Roswell. Roswell was like, that was his big thing. And so some of my first books that I ever read were his paranormal books. I remember being so tiny and sat on his knee looking at the glossy pictures in the middle of a paranormal encyclopedia. So when I grew up to be a bookworm, I just had this insatiable curiosity to know about. I was always the kid saying, but why? Where did that come from? Just, again, really irritating. But I then could find a lot of the interest in books, and I became quiet but irritating, which is all right for a child. So yeah, then I'd sort of just built on it, got obsessed with Victorian death traditions and cemeteries, had my own paranormal experiences, which kind of steered me more towards asking those whys, and then went through academia, did a lot of writing about Victorian Gothic, obsessed with Victorian Gothic, and then when I got to do my PhD, I got to be hyper niche and managed to look into spiritualism. And I've kind of been deeply immersed in spiritualism, the history of the paranormal ever since. And so now I'm a full-time writer, lecturer, and historian in it, she's kind of crazy, but it's probably best for the world at large that I'm not, working as a midwife or something that actually involves people's well-being, because I'd be I'd be a monstrous liability. So it's best that I'm just kept in a very quiet office out in the corner, so no one needs to check on me too often.
Quite literally kept in a niche.
Yes, yeah.
And one question that I have, and I don't know if this is just hi Timothy. If this is just a British thing, it seems also with the Americans. Like, what is it with Victorian England? Like the obsession with Victorian England. Like it's also in just so many, like the proper ghost stories. It's always some Victorian ghost, like in these these beautiful dresses and all of that. And it's never just like, I don't know, someone from the 2000s who's like walking up the stairs singing, it's Britney, bitch.
I long to meet that ghost though. One day. Oh God, yes. I pray that I get to go, so finally. Cool. Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
Yeah. I think there's the obsession with Victorian England, especially Victorian England, I think has been largely shaped by contemporary media portrayals. And when I say contemporary, I mean sort of, let's say 60s onwards, when we started having some more sort of schlocky filmic adaptations of like horrors, Gothic horrors. So I think really a lot of it is embedded in the Gothic, and the Victorian age itself being just 19th century, it's far enough away in terms of what's familiar. So the fashions are sort of familiar, but they're not what we'd wear today. They're distant, but they're within touching distance. So I think they're in that kind of sweet spot of being other, so we can look at their death traditions, we can look at their beautiful clothes and their traditions and their superstitions as something that is like a collective ideal of a past, but we don't actually have to fully immerse ourselves in it in modern day. So it's this weird sweet spot, I feel. But I also think that like ghost story traditions, the ghost story itself wasn't invented by the Victorians, but it was certainly elevated, and it was certainly made into a replicable template by the Victorians. So the great Victorian age of the ghost story was pretty much a social and cultural perfect storm. So we still had beliefs about the solstice and the later darker nights being this time where the veil was thinner and that spirits were able to be closer to the living. But we also had changes in employment and how much time people spent at home, and we hadn't quite come into the full age of accessible electricity. So houses weren't fully lit at night. And so when families gathered together late at night, they'd often gather around a fire, which would be a source of light, a source of community, and a source of warmth. And so when you've got this perfect storm of, well, the veil's thinner, the nights are darker, we're starting to get these literary ideas mixed with this new sort of communal existence late at night. It was perfect for the birth of the ghost story. And so I think when we accept that they're the roots of certainly the Anglicized, the Western ghost story, as we largely know it today, that it would stand to reason that we base a lot of our contemporary beliefs and our contemporary cliches, should we say, of what makes the ideal ghost. We base it on these Anglicized 19th century versions of the paranormal, which is why, like you say, if you go into any stately home, doesn't matter, any place, any historical place, doesn't matter if it's been there 400 years or if it's been there 20 years, there will always be a Victorian lady wandering through the corridors, because that's what we think culturally makes a ghost, because it's beautiful, it's spectral, it's other, it's from the near past, and it fits into our cultural checkboxes. But yeah, I mean, I've been in certain instances where I haven't quite got my "it's Britney bitch" ghost yet, and let's put that as a yet. It will happen. But certainly in those circumstances, there've been people that have recorded very modern ghosts, even people they've known, but largely the ones that fix into our consciousness are the very well-dressed ghosts, or the Victorian Cockney chimney sweeps. You can't move for dead chimney sweeps in a lot of stately homes. They're always going to be haunting some darkened passageway. Yeah,
and I guess for like pop culture reasons, for on the big screen, someone in a like flowy dress and big hair, like it just looks a lot better than, well, cropped up in booty shorts, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, that one is chilling and one is concerning. There's a real
that's a good way.
And I think all of us can, however we dress day to day, we can always appreciate a good bustle. I mean, even like the Avon paperbacks, the romance paperbacks of the 1970s, there was a whole range of these gothic romance novels that featured exclusively women in beautiful dresses running away from castles. I mean, if that isn't the peak of like the supernatural gothic, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, no, I suppose that's true. It's always been Middle Ages, the princess who doesn't want to get married to like the man her father chose for her, so she leaps off the castle tower and all that.
Oh yeah,
there are always these beautifully tragic stories, and I suppose that could be also one of the more haunting parts, if you will. Like we don't, of course, we don't associate death with beauty. So when we see, a beautiful specter, I mean, Victorian lady, like as you said, the gown and everything is incredibly beautiful, but it's no longer there, yet it is. I suppose that makes it extra haunting in a way.
Yeah. It certainly brings that gothic beauty to it. And of course, when we're referencing Victorian Gothic was built on the romanticization of medieval ecclesiastical architecture and this very romanticized version of the medieval past, which again is why we have so many, like you say, so many spurned lovers and women jumping to their deaths from castles because they didn't want to marry the horrible, Lord so-and-so, and they wanted to marry the handsome knight who was just too late at getting to a window. All these sort of things are they're so cliche, but they're cliche because they're good, and they're cliche because they work, and they're cliche because of the Victorians largely pushing these sort of narratives into a new culturally accessible world. So
Yeah.
like instead of like celebrating the Industrial Revolution for 2.5 hours, the one of the reasons as well that we have such a love of the Victorian ghost stories is that it was the first time that the public, like you and I, could go and afford to get these quick little paperbacks. We could get magazines for the first time. There was a dawn of the periodical press and the magazine press. And so that meant that we could have cheap, accessible literature for the masses for the first time. And so people weren't necessarily wanting to read really highbrow prose, like, oh, I want to read the works of Chaucer. No, people wanted scandal, ghosts, murder. And so that's why we have this amazing age of nothing has changed at all. But we have this amazing
I was going to say,
age,
like, those
like
stories,
today.
like, they sell to this day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's thanks to the Victorians, really, that this world came together at the perfect time, and then everyone could enjoy ghost stories that were updated every week. It was like watching a TV show every week. And that's also why now, when we look back at so many Victorian supernatural stories, not necessarily ghost stories, but lots of supernatural stuff like Varney the Vampire, some of the very early Penny Dreadfuls, they sound quite nice. Like, oh, Victorian thing you could read every week. But also these stories were largely paid by the word. So these authors would really stretch how long these stories went for, and they're like doorstops, and they're quite dense. But the idea of them is important. Yeah.
Okay. I guess I understand that. Yeah, it's just still want that Britney bitch ghost though.
I know. Do you think maybe I should go on an investigation and leave an offering of like a juicy couture tracksuit? And I don't know,
like a best of 2000s hit CD or something.
Yeah,
that
something
could
like that.
work. That could work. Like if you want some like Britney Spears, Paris Hilton kind of.
Yeah, that would
spectral.
Be good. Yeah, play a bit of Ricky Martin and see if something comes up.
Man,
I'll report back.
That's a ritual I would love to partake in, just for shits and giggles. You mentioned you have had your own experience, and I imagine after so many years you've had many different types of experiences, appearances. What were some of the more memorable ones? Like it could be in any shape or form or whatever they take.
I suppose recently, I've been quite fortunate in that I've been able to go to some of my dream locations, some places, certainly in the UK, places that I thought, oh, they're a bit far. No one wants to go really on their own, driving for 5 hours to go to them. But I've been to a few caves recently, which have been really, really interesting. Because I think when a lot of these places have these amazing reputations of being the most haunted X in this area, that you sort of think, oh, I bet nothing happens. And I bet if anything happens, there's someone at the other side of the room that's throwing something. Because you see the best and worst of humanity in the paranormal, especially among the living. The dead are another matter, but I've seen everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, just doing some really quiet back to basics stuff recently. I had this amazing experience where I was sat doing a candle vigil on my own. So it was just me in a cave with a candle, calling out, trying to get people to interact with me, interact with the candle, just talking into darkness like a mad woman, as usual. And eventually I started to get these very, very clear footsteps around me. And we were recording everything, so we've got it all on audio. But these footsteps going around me and then moving around the room, because fortunately there was gravel everywhere. So we heard these. And then eventually we started hearing talking and then laughter. And there was no one else there but us. And to hear it so clearly recently was just it was really exciting in a very quiet, still way, because I think sometimes you can desperately want a big poltergeist to come out and like throw a lamp at your head or appear in front of your face, but sometimes you just need those quiet, audible experiences, and they've been really, really important recently. But I suppose the most extreme ones have been the ones that I experienced when I wasn't actively looking, which is always the case, I suppose,
God,
in this field. But yeah, to cut a very, very long story short, my sister owned an incredibly haunted house for a few years. She didn't know that it was haunted when she bought it. But I stayed there for a period of time in my early teens, and we had very, very extreme happenings there that we could never explain away. And they were everything from footsteps up and down the stairs to these big, like, shapes of light around the house. It's really hard to describe. It's like, I suppose if you had, glow sticks.
Yeah.
If you'd ever this is a really bad analogy, but if you ever squeezed out a bit of a glow stick into like a blob shape.
Yeah.
Like that, but the size of a person around the house. Yeah. And we'd see, it was really, really bizarre. I haven't heard many other people talk about having these so-called light anomalies.
No, usually it's
in
like
the house.
shadows, like these tall, dark figures or something.
Yeah, and a lot of orbs and things like that. But we didn't necessarily have that. We had a lot of these shapes, but it did escalate, and ultimately we did start seeing these. I don't want to call them shadow figures because it doesn't fit that fully. But we started seeing out bits of a person, like an arm or a portion of someone, as if they were completely made out of darkness, as if they were completely black, but with sort of crackly edges going into rooms in the house. And then eventually we saw this man in the house who was like as real as you are now. It was just a man he was in my sister's bedroom, then my bedroom, then we saw him on the landing, and we saw him sort of hovering in the bathroom, which was horrible. And when that happened, that's when I tried to get out as fast as I could and move in with another family member, and they moved downstairs. Yeah, so it wasn't one of those, hey, let's get teams in to investigate. Hey, let's do what, it wasn't very Hollywood. It was a case of, this is horrific. Something's wrong with this house and we need to get out of the house. So yeah, the extreme things that I experienced there haven't necessarily been replicated in investigations, but I don't think that you can experience those in investigations. It seems like that's something that has to build up over time, like a relationship with someone who's in the space. So yeah, they're sort of the two extremes. It's like investigating Kate is really excited to hear something and have some kind of intelligent response. Past Kate is absolutely terrified that something like that might happen again. So there's this weird duality to my existence.
Yeah, no, I understand. But crackling, like
like a TV static. When it's like or fiberglass. Yeah, it's hard to describe.
I think I know. I kind of know what you mean. I mean, that's mostly because of the amazing British storytelling podcast, the Magnus Archives. There's a character in the show which is or has eventually transformed into like pure electricity, pure energy of some kind. So every time like he makes an appearance in an episode, like first you'll hear like the kind of like the whoosh of just energy coming in, and then the like high pitched static crackling kind. Like I'm kind of imagining that.
Yeah.
So, but it didn't start out that way. So it like over time manifested itself.
Yeah,
or?
it was over about 3 years. It started with the footsteps. I think that was the first thing. It was that and smells. We smelt burning quite a lot in the house. And so a lot of people, well, certainly friends, I don't talk about this all the time, strangely. But a lot of friends, their first question is, well, what about the electrics? What about the gas? Looking through all these very rational explanations. But
Yeah, of
I think
course,
I
of
was
course.
quite fortunate to be in the position where my sister's husband was a gas engineer at the time,
Oh,
and his friends were electricians. So the full house was completely redone and renovated over that time. But I do think that things started to escalate as changes were made to the house. So as more and more wallpaper was ripped off, then more things started to happen, or the frequency or the severity increased. So we had the worst thing to me, even though things got quite extreme and we saw these horrible things, the thing that really still chills me and still frightens me is how it started with the footsteps, because it was like a heavy, like in a work boot, like a Doc Martin, like a
yeah.
heavy work
I
boot going up the stairs. Yeah,
I
it was
I
going
work in security, so I know exactly
exactly.
how
Yeah,
that sounds. Yeah,
yeah,
those are heavy footsteps. Yeah.
yeah. So it wasn't like, oh, is that a creak? Is it? It was like there's someone in the house, and of course, first we thought it was a burglar. We thought
Yeah,
someone was breaking
obviously.
into the house. Yeah, and we'd hear it come up, but then when it got to the top of the stairs, nothing was there. And it would go up the stairs and it would do a route round the landing. And then over time, that route grew and it started going into different rooms. But when it first started off doing that route, we couldn't see anything, but my sister's dog would sit at the top of the stairs and
Yeah.
growl and watch something. So she always watched the direction of the footsteps, but we could never see what she was looking at. Certainly in those early days. Yeah, so that's that image of being sat in my bed, and my bed was straight in front of the doorway that led out onto the landing.
Mm.
Being sat in my bed, looking out and watching this dog, not moving at all, watching this dog growling as her head moved and watched these footsteps. It was horrific. Well, my bedroom smelt like burning, and I wondered why I had problems sleeping for years. It's
Gee,
like,
why would that be?
surprise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, exactly.
yeah.
Oh, but that's you'll hear that often actually, that when changes are made to a certain location, like either the haunting starts or it gets worse, like especially with um more maleficent kind of spirits. It
Mhm,
starts out as like you mentioned, just walking up the stairs, or lights flickering on and off, the usual
mhm.
Hollywood stuff. But then
Yeah.
as soon as like changes are made, especially when um like things of the original structure are like broken down or renovated
Mm.
or evolved in some way, the energy, if you will, seems to ramp up. So I can imagine
Yeah.
with um a whole rewiring and like proper new
Yeah.
network. That's a lot of like also a lot of different energy streams just being
Yeah.
updated. Um
Yeah. It was really odd. Very, very odd time. Very odd time. But also when you're renovating, when it needs renovating,
mm.
you can't just stop in the middle of it because you've got half a house. You so it's
Yeah,
it's a
true,
really it's a
true.
really awkward position. Really awkward position to be in. But yeah, it wasn't a Hollywood experience at all. But of course now, doing what I do now, I keep thinking, oh, why didn't we get a video camcorder back then? Why didn't we call these people or do this? But that's the joy of
That's
hindsight, isn't it?
that's
It's
always after the fact.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
mean
because we
that's
didn't
that's
know any of
why.
these. Yeah, we didn't know these things existed.
Yeah. So that particular spirit, that man, or what was once a man,
Mhm.
I suppose,
Yeah.
was kind of stuck in a loop. Like you also said, you were looking for like investigator Kate, as you put it so nicely, is
Mm.
looking for more intelligent answers. Is there a difference between the two? Because my wife like just absolutely loves like, you know, ghost stories and those TV shows, the actual TV shows, not the or the good TV shows, I should say, not the ones who are indeed faking a lot of stuff for
Yeah.
you know, that TV money, which is good money.
If you can get it.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you fake a whole bunch of stuff and get great numbers, then yeah, that'll work. But is there a difference between the two, and what makes one like stuck in a loop and the other somewhat intelligent, semi-intelligent, or at least able to react?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I think there's some really interesting theories about the nature of ghosts and the nature of hauntings.
Mhm.
Because certainly in recent years, since, like you say, paranormal TV shows, and I can't slag off paranormal TV shows. I've done quite a few of them. I've had a brilliant time. And I haven't faked anything either. So that's why I'm not earning the big bucks. But curse my integrity.
the price of keeping your
But
property. Yeah.
I know, such a shame. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of theories recently that I think have been largely shaped by a lot of contemporary media, that we try and simplify down types of ghosts, we can call them that, or types of hauntings, down into intelligent, residual, poltergeist, and then this weird nebulous fourth one that's like non-human, demonic, other. But of course, if you're going to call something demonic, you've got such a weight of religious and cultural influence within that.
Oh yeah.
So I kind of,
and even
yeah, I
poltergeist,
struggle
you
with that.
could like put kind of in the category of demonic or
Oh yeah,
maleficent, evil kind of beings.
yeah. It's like
But
one
those are
big awkward Venn diagram where
yeah.
so many things are intersecting. Yeah, yeah. I don't think things are necessarily exclusive to one another. So you can, I believe, this is just based on my own personal reading, my own personal belief, because of course so much of this is informed by our own personal experiences. But I
Mhm.
certainly feel that if something is residual, to believe that you've seen or encountered, shall we say, a non-intelligent residual or sort of just repetitious spirit or haunting more broadly, that doesn't necessarily have to be the echo of a person who is deceased, like a ghost caught in a loop.
Mhm.
I believe that that's perhaps one facet of things, but I also have been in situations where if you've experienced a really intense emotion, like if you're really, really scared, or you're really angry, or even if you're really joyful, if there's an extreme spike,
Yeah.
I still think that leaves an imprint. That also leaves a shadow, and that's something that you can tap into and interpret that as a haunting. Whereas necessarily it's not necessarily something that's linked to a deceased person. But also, again, nothing is simple. It's all intersecting. I
Mhm.
also think that spirits, in a sense, can exist on a loop, and you can't have intelligent communication with those ones because it's just like watching a video over and over again. Nothing's going to change because it's just an echo. It's like an audible echo, or it's like a shadow. It's like
Mhm.
a sticker stuck on a lamppost. You're just going to see it again and again and again, and it's not going to change. But I think when it comes to intelligent things, they may manifest initially as something that's residual and non-intelligent, but if it's able to build up energy, then it can develop more into something that was rather more latent, that was waking up. So that's an incredibly convoluted way of saying that I believe spirits are a bit like snakes and ladders. I think everything can
Mhm.
exist in multiple states at once, and I believe that a lot of this
Yeah.
is geared by energy, and the energy and attention that we give these things. We can either ignore them forever, or we can almost feed into them and make them more prominent. And I certainly feel like in my case, or my sister's case, there was something that was always there, but it needs people, and it needs the energy that only people can provide to manifest into something that is intelligent and something that's curious, isn't necessarily angry, but is curious as to what's happening. So I find that very interesting. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm also very much of the like I love everything esoteric, mystic, occult, and everything. And the way that you described like emotions leaving an imprint, like
Mm.
my mind, I know it's a little different. It's such a niche topic within the occult. I kind of went to a tulpa where
Hmm.
the emotion like becomes
Yeah.
a being in of itself, really.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I do believe that. I mean, maybe that is what, or like in like the Venn diagram part of like the evil, demonic kind of
Mm.
things, especially with anger, for example. If it's such a rage that it takes on its own life,
Yeah.
maybe that's why people like will sometimes say that I feel like a very bad energy, like a very evil energy
Yeah.
hanging around, just not concentrated in like a particular shape, but it's just it's all around. It
Yeah.
just has taken over the space, really.
Yeah. I think that's one aspect of the paranormal or the broad supernatural that we've normalized in our lives, that we can walk into a building and go, oh, or someone's house, go, oh, something feels a bit off.
Yeah.
Or you can walk into a function room after like a work do and go, oh, something's happened. It's like that's no different really than saying I sense a spirit or I sense a ghost, because it's all energy. It's all using ourselves as magnets almost to try and measure what's happening in our environment.
And it's
So yeah,
levels
I think
of sensitivity as well, like how
yeah,
sensitive you are to it.
absolutely. I think everyone's got an like an inbuilt sensitivity meter. Everyone's got their own little K2 meter in them, and the way you can sense if you might not light up if you go near live electrics, but you might be able to go into a room if you can. Well done. But
I'd be
you
concerned,
might go
but
into
sure.
yeah, I don't know what you've been sticking up yourself, but good luck. But the idea but the idea that you can go into a room and sense something that you can't tangibly explain. I think that's the way that we can all interact with the supernatural. And like with tulpas, like you're saying, we we can manifest inadvertently, unconsciously, these these feelings that last, these feelings that we make together and we leave them somewhere. So we're not
Yeah.
dragging them with us. And that's really interesting. Like the Philip experiment, where a group of people gathered over many, many months to communicate a spirit that they'd entirely created themselves. They had made this big background about this fictitious individual, and they knew all going in, this is completely um, constructed from our own minds and um, uh, our own creativity. So
Yeah.
they made this man, and every week they'd all go back and they'd all hold seances and try and communicate with this person who absolutely never existed. And as time progressed, they were able to make intelligent communication, or perceived intelligent communication, with this being. And that then leads into um, research and discussions into the power of consciousness and the nature of consciousness, and even manifestation.
Mhm.
So, yeah, can we manifest beings? Can we fool our own consciousness into creating a new consciousness? Um, well, it's very, very interesting, and many people have done some fantastic long running experiments with it, and that continue to produce very compelling and concerning results as well. So I find that very fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, it's also, like your kid and his imaginary friend, if
Mm,
you will. Like how many of those would be like actually standing right beside them? It's just that you can see them.
exactly.
Um,
That's why children are terrifying. 'Cause you never know. Are they talking to an imaginary friend? Are they talking to a Victorian deceased lady? You will never know.
yeah, no, I'm a father of two kids myself, 10-year-old daughter, 7-year-old son. My daughter she's definitely a little witchling. She definitely, senses
Yeah.
things, if you will. I mean, she's 10 years old. She's definitely moving up into, into puberty.
Mhm.
Yay. Um,
Good luck.
I'll need it. But like, I remember when she was a little younger, that she would have in her words, like monsters under her bed. Like,
Mm.
the age old kids thing of like, oh, there's a monster underneath my bed. And me being a follower of the old gods, lover of everything paranormal, spooky, occult, mystic, um I would go along with it. I mean, I didn't see them, but I would definitely, help her with like grabbing them by the scruff and kicking them down the stairs
Yeah.
because, I want my baby to have a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
And she did every night that I, took away the monsters underneath her
Mm.
bed, whether they were actually there or not. She
Mm.
believed that me removing them meant it was safe and that she had a good night's sleep. So
Yeah.
it's paranormal, occult. It's just so fascinating. You never know if something actually is there.
Mm.
It's fun that you like the first example you mentioned right away is caves, because it's that just caves. There's something about caves, like especially in
Mm.
the I refer to myself as a Germanic heathen. I'm a follower of the old Germanic gods, but all the like bigger rituals, often like passing rituals, like passing of the torch or like
Mhm.
coming of age rituals, were done in caves or in larger cave systems. Are there like any more examples that you this is just personal curiosity of
Yeah.
like caves or cave systems? Because
Mm.
it doesn't seem like, a place that you would encounter a spirit of some kind, yet there is a certain
Yeah.
mystery to it. That's why our ancestors held all those rituals there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's tons of cave systems in the UK, like, oh god, Cheddar Gorge caves, Wookey Hole has a cave system that I'm still a bit scared of. Hellfire caves. There's some amazing cave systems that have their associated legends because these things are so old and they've been used for so many different purposes, whether that's ritualistic or practical. For so many years, you
Yeah.
have this amazing folklore that comes along. Sorry, with a lot of these cave systems, but also more interestingly, I think we can see how culture has changed the language that we use um, to refer to spirits and supernatural beings. So in a lot of the cave systems down south, like in Cornwall and Devon, for example, they
Hmm.
have folkloric a lot of folklore traditions surrounding the cave systems, but a lot of those are supernatural and relate to supernatural beings that are working alongside the miners that work within the cave system. So there's loads of different beings that are sort of like elves, imps, different names like
Yeah, like
knockers. Yeah.
yeah, knockers, goblin-like creatures. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember those stories. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're sort of, they can be benevolent if you, again, if you treat them right, if you acknowledge them, if you give them an offering, but also if you disrespect them, then they could be malevolent and they can make your life a damn sight harder when you're working. And I think
Yeah.
it's really interesting that we have these sort of subterranean um, traditions of supernatural beings that are almost letting people into their world. And so the humans are there working, but we know who really rules the roost here. But as time progresses, we don't really have new cases of of goblins and elves underground, we then use the language of hauntings, and we use the language of ghosts and supernatural beings. Weirdly, imps are making a good big comeback in the cultural consciousness, which is very exciting. Like there've been very few people over the years who have been seriously passionate about fairy lore and fairy folklore, and a lot of those people are now being heard more. So it seems like that's filtering into the wider public consciousness now. But yeah, when it comes to cave systems, I mean, I'm personally just terrified of falling into a crevasse and never being seen again. But ultimately, people now are giving more consideration to imps that might be there. Maybe an imp would give you a shove. But like with,
They would.
let's say, Wookey Hole Caves in Somerset, I think it is. I haven't been there in a long time. They have the Wookey Hole Witch. So alongside all these tales of hauntings and strange supernatural beings inhabiting these caves that are seen as too weird for conventional human habitation, you also have a tragedy of like an old woman who was a bit of a wise woman, one of those women with knowledge of rudimentary healing, whose remains were found. Yeah, were found in the cave, and this whole story has sprung up around her about this Wookey Hole Witch. It's this monstrous woman, this other, who lived in the caves. And so she becomes part of this sort of living supernatural folklore. So caves, above all things, are really, really interesting because although they've got this ancient supernatural lore around them, that lore is constantly evolving with us. Like with Hellfire Caves, there was said to be a woman who was murdered down there. She'd gone to meet a handsome man who was going to marry her down there. Surprise, he wasn't there. It was some of the local boys who were playing a trick on her. And one of them threw a rock at her head and she died there. And her spirit is said to lurk there. But also, her spirit and the stories surrounding her spirit have evolved over the years. And there are mannequins of her in the cave system. So she's sort of become like a murder becomes a spirit, becomes a cultural commodity, and then we change her. So caves are really, really fascinating places.
Yeah.
We can't leave them alone. We really can't.
I do remember the story of the Hellfire Cave. There's this I don't remember their name, Australian couple. They do these incredible shows on YouTube. My wife's a big fan of them. We watched them like every week when they had a new release. We would watch them, but they investigated those caves and like of course with any like good story, there's also I believe like some secret society connected to them or I mean like you have a murder, a haunting, a secret society, hellfire caves. Makes for a good story, makes for a good tourist attraction as well.
You'd be very disappointed if there was nothing in the Hellfire Caves. I mean, if you just have a gift shop, that's going to be rubbish. You need this amazing history. But yeah, the Hellfire Club, which was founded by Francis Dashwood in the 18th century, I believe. That was amazing. That's like really, the sort of wealthy old lords of yesteryear who just had all the money in the world and all they wanted was to be hedonistic, to just drink and to have loads of women. And if they can do so in a special outfit underground with some weird exotic animals jumping out at them, then they're happy. And that's like the ultimate in British indulgence through the centuries. It's just exploitation, but underground. So it's exciting.
Some things never change, I guess.
Yeah. So yeah, the Hellfire Caves is interesting, but I'm very disappointed the club no longer exists. It certainly wouldn't admit women anyway if it did. So I can't be too upset.
With a lot of those places like becoming touristy hotspots, do you think that's like a good thing for you know, like the supernatural, like for investigators. If it's a tourist attraction, you know, you're making a good buck of it. I can imagine that some things are maybe not always what they seem like, you know, that the tourists are
Yeah.
coming there expecting something. So then if nothing happens, you know, there are definitely going to be people who are asking for a refund. But
Oh,
on the
absolutely.
other hand, I can also imagine with just the streams of people moving through and just so many different energies that it could like either amplify or maybe change even what is happening
Yeah.
there, especially if it's, you know, like people all around the world who bring so many different energies and cultures and all of that. Like, what are your thoughts on it? Is it a good thing because
Yeah.
it's getting more well known, or is it really detrimental?
Well, I do think with that last point, I do think that a steady stream of people will inherently affect the energy of a space, the feel of a space. I think that just goes for any place that's open to the public. When you've got so much going on all the time, it's like writing on a wall over and over and over again. That wall will visually, you know, inherently change. And so I think, yeah, having so many people through, you're going to have these changes. I think it's a bit of a poison chalice, really. It's a bit difficult because, on one hand, places that open themselves up to the public for paranormal hire, so for people to come in and run like paranormal investigations, there's a lot of buildings that were at risk of closing and now really financially benefit from paranormal investigation companies. There's some friends of mine, they run a business called Paranormal Consultant, and they've been in the game for decades now, but they advise a lot of historic buildings how to open new revenue streams by welcoming in paranormal investigators. So it's tricky because obviously you have to explain to people, okay, there's this whole subculture of people that do this. They're not going to come into your building and summon Satan, probably. You know, so you'd
Hopefully.
hope. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's extra. So yeah, you've got that side of things where it can really boost a lot of historic locations because, you know, even keeping the lights on in this house is becoming really expensive. And this house is a shoebox. So to then suddenly have like this amazing old building, the running costs are obscene. But then, like you say, if it's the nature of public paranormal investigations, if you have people that are then paying, there's a lot of P's in that sentence, people that are then paying to come on a paranormal investigation, unless they're kind of mega seasoned, do this all the time, don't care if they don't get any evidence. If they're just coming on for their first investigation and they're paying a good whack, because investigations can range everything from 30 quid to 200 and then some, you know, to investigate overnight. If you're paying that for the first time and you're going to be a repeat customer, you're going to need something to happen. You need to provide that to your guests. And I don't necessarily think that, you know, people fake these things. I think there's different methods that you can use. If you give everyone loads of equipment, chances are something will light up and you can pursue that. And people who are very skilled in running public nights will know how to navigate these things. But at the same time, I've been on private investigations where there's been a big group of people that I haven't known that well, and I've thought something interesting will happen. Nothing will happen overnight. Suddenly there's knocking on the table, and I look at the person next to me and their hand is underneath the table, knocking underneath it.
Yeah.
And I'm aggressively English, so I am really polite until I'm not. You know, it's like, and so things like that just really make me blow my top, because then when you catch someone in that fakery, then it completely, you lose all sense of trust in the system. So it's a really tangled web, and I understand why people would manufacture things on public nights. Don't necessarily think it's a good thing, but I think then we'd just get into the nature of what is good. What is a good motion? What is a good act? Because it's, you know, faking things could benefit the well-being of a business. and the well-being of a location, but at the same time, it's fundamentally unethical and isn't doing great things for the reputations of paranormal investigators, who are generally regarded certainly by outsiders, as being a bit mad anyway. So yeah, it's not. It's very, very murky.
Yeah. And when you find like someone like faking it, like knocking on the table, then I can imagine that everything else that you might
Yeah.
hear or see that night, you're gonna pull into question, because like the first piece
Absolutely.
of evidence that you have is someone faking it.
Yeah.
So that's where
Yeah.
your mind is gonna go
Yeah.
first, or like
Yeah.
you'd look at that person first, like, you again?
Yeah, exactly. And it's I think it's good to be very aware and to doubt everything and to question everything, but to then not move beyond that and to stop your mind from being open is a great shame.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, by all means, I can't really talk. I've been on investigations where we did some table tipping. I saw one person essentially pick up the table and move it, and I just threw a strop and went to bed to have a glass of wine and read a book. So I'm not always like very passive and watch the whole thing. But at the same time, that doesn't spoil my curiosity and my drive to keep finding out what the edges of existence are, what the nature of consciousness is, what the nature of history and humanity is, you know?
Yeah. Hi. I know.
I know.
I've been gone all weekend. I do apologize. I'll never do it again. I'll quit
Cats
my
have
job.
very, very strong opinions on the nature of consciousness. They really do.
They have strong opinions in general. Yeah.
Yes, they do. They really do.
One thing you mentioned is like, all the equipment, and yes, that can become very expensive.
Oh God, yeah.
And I've seen like paranormal groups having, okay, Timmy, I do love you, and yes, we'll cuddle later, but this is not the right time, dude. I've seen investigators like just going into the night with like nothing but a flashlight and a recorder, really, and then some people just having, I don't know, having bought out like the entire Amazon section,
Yeah.
or whatever. And especially with so many things being electric, do you think that having more equipment and having more of these energy fields, if you will, can that increase the possibilities of something happening?
Yeah.
Or is
I
that
think
just, I want to look fancy with all my new gadgets?
I think it's all of them. I think it's all of the above, really, which isn't a very helpful answer. I appreciate. But I think paranormal equipment can be very useful. But I certainly feel like there's been, like you say, there's this divergence of methodologies in paranormal investigation recently. There's the idea of, let's get back to basics, or let's do things the way they did in the 19th century. Whereas in reality, in the 19th century, they had loads of equipment. They were inventing it all the time, So, but I appreciate that you can get so drunk on equipment all the time and looking at the bleeping things and making sure everything works that you kind of just lose sight of anything else that's happening around you. So I do think having very, very stripped down investigations can almost be like a cleansing experience. It can be like having a detox. And I think it's really worthwhile to do that as often as you can, really, because ultimately, in a lot of these instances, when you look at paranormal reports throughout the centuries, they've been assessed via our own senses. So we have all the tools we need built into our moving flesh sacks. We have everything we need. It's a lovely phrase, isn't it? And we have everything we need to sense the paranormal, to investigate, to communicate with it. So I think it's always good to not get too caught up in what money can buy you. It can, but at the same time, paranormal equipment can be very interesting, and you can do some really interesting experiments with it. But I think the only really bad thing about paranormal equipment is if you feel pressurized, like with peer pressure in the paranormal world, it can be like, oh, I don't have an MF1, I don't have this very expensive new bit of kit from America that costs £2,000. And if you feel pressurized to do that, then you've gone down quite an unhealthy route, and it's worth pulling yourself back from that. Because there can be a real pressure when everyone goes out investigating together and everyone's got their little cases with all their equipment. It's like, my case is much bigger than yours in a sense. Some people can come with these massive trolleys with things that could literally raise the dead physically with the amount of power they've got going through them. and I think it can kind of just throw you off a bit. But there's some really interesting tech out there, some really interesting stuff being developed. And some of it is not the expensive stuff. There's a guy in the UK called Andy Guy who runs this business called Skya Communications. And he's actually looked at what people would like to measure during investigations, things like temperature, air pressure, EMF, and they're all affordable. And then you don't have to go and feel pressurized to buy, the Corpsomatic 6000, where you'll have to remortgage your house and there's no guarantee that it'll actually do anything anyway. But at the same time, I'm not a fan of phone apps, but I try not to slag them off too much because a lot of people really like them. And I've done investigations where people that I know have been using them recently, and I don't dismiss them in the investigations themselves, because I think if people want to use them to then direct their investigation, if they think, oh, we're going down this route talking about this topic, we're getting hits, let's go for it. I'm a fan of radio hacks. Anything that uses radio communications I think is really interesting. But when it's in a phone, it's handy because it's on you all the time, but I'm not a fan. But yeah, I feel like there is a happy middle ground, but it's so easy to go down the route of I must get everything. It's like Pokemon again. It's like,
gotta catch
however
them
many
all,
years later. Yeah, it's got to catch them all, except this time, you can't just go down the supermarket and get a pack of cards. You've got to go and, remortgage your house. Yeah.
So why not phones? Why not phone apps? I mean, with the increase of smartphones and all the things that they can do and pick up, and the EMF that is like already coming from our phones, you would think that with an app and maybe like, I don't know, like some tool attached to it that you can put into the like the power port or something, it would make for a great handy tool, like literally handy, because like you can pull it out of your pocket right away. And I know there have been paranormal teams who have developed their own apps. I do have experience with one, and I'm not gonna tell you what experience it's just because I want to hear your experience, your opinion first. But like why not? Does it take away from it being genuine, or is it just like another excuse to get to take your phone out? Or?
No, I think the problem with a lot of phone apps is that they fundamentally missell themselves, and they're able to do so because they're sold as for entertainment only. So they can boast that the app itself uses functions that your phone does not possess. Like your phone is a tangible thing. Inside is, it's programmed to have certain things, certain capabilities. It's like a lot of the things that the phone apps boast that they're able to do, that they're able to measure or send out, the phone itself, the handset itself, does not possess that ability, and it's not an ability that you can download. It's like a fundamental necessity of engineering if it were to do that. And so I think a bit too much weight can be placed into phone apps, because they can so easily be manipulated. And if a phone app is working as, say, like a word bank, for example, like it'll give out relevant words, and perhaps it will have a bank of, they're not generally that big, but let's say 1,000 words. Let's say it's got 1,000 words. Each of those words will be related to something that's it'll be programmed to be something that's related to paranormal investigation. So it'll be words like ghost, demon, hung, grave, sorrow. It'll be things like that. It won't be things like potato, whiteboard, smiling, reindeer, nail varnish.
Sure, yeah.
It'll be a lexical set that's relevant to paranormal investigation. Whereas if that app possessed the features that it claimed to have, it would have a far greater word bank, and it would not be churning out the nature of the responses that they do. So I'm not a fan, but I also appreciate at the same time. I would never tell anyone not to exclusively.
Mhm.
Personally, I don't, because I just believe that they're fundamentally missold. But in the same time, we are talking about the paranormal, which is a whole world that's essentially based on personal experience and oral tradition.
Sure.
But yeah, some people I know, they love their apps. They use lots of different ones. And they feel like it's changed their investigation methods in a good direction, and more power to them if it has. But I'm not a fan. I've tried various ones, paid for all manner of nonsense over the years that I really begrudge. And,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just not worked for me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have tried one app just to see what it does from that Australian couple, just because
Mhm.
that's it. I know they have one, so why not try one?
Mm.
Try it. And that one will supposedly like pick up vocals, like pick
Mhm.
up voices or sounds or whatever. But I still now and also back in my my previous place where I lived, I live in a flat. There are many other homes, many other houses around me, and especially in the last place where I lived, it was nothing but flats, like 3-4 story flats.
Mm.
Everyone has their TV on. Everyone
Yeah.
has like their radio, their Alexa, their whatever on. And I mean, I was definitely picking up something. I was
Mm.
picking up, the football match that was going on TV at number,
Yeah.
I don't know, 73 at Free High.
Mm.
Wasn't really picking up any ghosts. Definitely picking up everything
Yeah.
else, but no ghosts. So that's why kind of disappointed. And my wife, she kind of pushed me like, oh, you should try it. And I'm like, honey,
Mm.
you are used to living out in the boonies, like living out
Yeah.
in the countryside, in in the States. This is the Netherlands. It's definitely more
Yeah.
tightly packed, so you're gonna pick up a lot.
Mm.
But in this neighborhood, no ghosts. No,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
No, we can't hear them, evidently. That's the problem. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very interesting, though, to have an app that just tries to filter sound. But then I'd also want to know more about that handset and how that works on different models, and just how the sensitivity of those microphones would work. But I'm
Yeah,
not
I mean,
taking
it
my
wasn't.
phone apart to find out.
I don't. I don't even think it was picking it up through the microphone, more so through just basic radio waves.
Mm. Yeah,
And
I don't know. I'm not going to take a programming course anytime soon, so I'm more than happy to be corrected on the inner workings of the newest iPhone. But yeah, I'm not essentially sold. But I'm always like, if someone brings up a new app, I want to know what it says it does. I want to know what people's relationships with them are, because I think it's very interesting that as society develops, our views of the paranormal stay the same, but the tools we use to investigate them change. And so to see just even how apps have evolved over the last, 5 years is immense compared to what they were. Because before, with some of the first apps, you just press a button and it would go demon, and you go, oh great, that's $4.99, well spent. Whereas the more modern ones, obviously do very different things. So you never know, maybe something will be developed that plays to the benefits of phone handsets. But I don't know. I'll keep looking, see what's happening, but I don't
I
use
mean,
them.
maybe And this is just an idea. Anyone listening or watching this, do please take this idea and run with it if you have the skill set. But like a smartphone specifically built, or perhaps rebuilt, there goes your word, G, for the use of paranormal investigation, like where it's turned into, well, where they have actually like built or rebuilt the device to be
Yeah.
able to pick up what the apps are
Yeah.
saying it can
Like
pick
it would
up.
be like a Swiss Army knife, wouldn't it, then, if it could do all these things at once in one little handy brick? Marvelous.
I don't think we're that far off with modern technology. And that kind of brings me into my my last question. And this is perhaps a bit of a controversial one. Like, speaking of the future of investigating and tools, what are your thoughts on the use of AI, of artificial intelligence, in paranormal investigations? Do you think it can be beneficial, or is it too volatile?
I'm not a fan of AI in general, and I think that's mainly because I earn my living primarily as a writer, and AI has not been the kindest rather on
Yeah.
writers recently, certainly with scalping works, and that whole world is just monstrous. But I do think with AI, I think the paranormal world is going to, certainly the world of so I was going to say hobbyist. A lot of people really don't like me using the word hobbyist. People who do paranormal investigations that aren't for academic purposes. So people who do it as a part of their identity, part of their enjoyment.
Sure.
I feel like it's going online. It's largely going online. There are still groups that go out and do stuff, but a lot of people are now exclusively actively participating with paranormal investigation through viewing other people do it on the screen. So it almost seems like people don't necessarily want to be active in investigation. They just want to see one. And it doesn't necessarily matter what that investigation holds, what the methods are, what the outcome is. It's largely about the personalities of those investigating it and the hook, because we're in the world of TikTok now.
Yeah.
So I try and understand it. I'm too old and doddery to really get it. But, I got a TikTok account and then was like, now what? But I do feel like people will investigate less in person, view more online. And if that manifests as investigators using AI to manipulate the evidence, or if people wanted to view exclusively AI-generated investigations that never happened, led by investigators that don't exist, I can absolutely see that happening. As like paranormal shows going online and becoming full artifice, I think is almost certainly in the future, because in the paranormal a lot, when you see people advertising events, advertising investigations themselves, a lot of them will use AI to generate little videos or little promotional images that sort of replicate the place where they're investigating, but has spirits almost superimposed into it. So it seems like it's already here, and AI ghosts are already being used to market real paranormal investigation as well. So I feel like the little tendrils are already there, the roots are already there, and anyone that's trying to push against it is kind of fighting a losing battle, as horrible as that sounds. But yeah, I'm not a fan.
And I know there are certain investigator groups and couples that already use AI in their investigations, but they use it as an extension to a tool that they already possess. I know there's one investigator couple who like try to visualize, like kind of going back to the occult, like they use like a black scrying mirror principle as well
Yeah.
in their investigations, often very successfully, according to them, of course. And they have somehow, I don't know how they managed to do that, but implemented AI in that tool to generate what it is that they are seeing. So to visualize that
Yeah.
being, that spirit,
Mm-hmm.
to like, well, also possibly have like actual confirmation of the being there. The being there.
Yeah.
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 That's proper English. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it works. Yeah. Yeah. I think in that instance, just get a pen and draw it. You know, you don't need to kill a couple of trees when you could just get a biro. And, you know, it's a smiley face with fangs. Oh, I've seen that. You know, not to. Sorry, that sounds really awful. No, not to belittle anyone else's investigative methods, but I think when you come to the environmental impact of AI, where it has its necessity, I think it's a very important feature, especially in things like healthcare. In robotics, I can see that it would have its purpose, but when we're using it for such trivial things, we're kind of losing our own skills, and I feel it's a great shame if we rely on something else when we could grow ourselves, we could develop new skills, we could develop new sensitivities, without relying on a system that's rather questionable in practice and ethics. We could do something that's really new and exciting and tangible and human. And I think that's the most important part of the paranormal, really, is that it's about humans, whether they're alive or dead or they never existed. It's about us and our interactions and our culture's interactions with the perception of the supernatural and the perception of the afterlife. And I think that's a far more beautiful thing without AI coming into it.
So less AI, more police sketch, let's say.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. If you can't draw, it doesn't matter. I want to see a really bad drawing of a ghost. Brilliant. That's more important to me than this very beautifully, finely sculpted thing. No, be human. There's no shame in being human.
Yeah, it does give it that human aspect. Yeah, and I mean, AI can only replicate. I mean, for now, at least commercially available, AI can really only replicate. So.
Exactly. And if you look through any old paranormal books and people have done sketches of things they've seen, the sketches might not be good, but that's what they saw and that's what they conveyed with their abilities. Whereas if you're putting something into a machine and going, no, that's not right, change that, no, that's not right, you're already being influenced by the amount of times that you're having to change prompts and you'll have to change details, that you can almost give yourself false memories. Whereas if you're immediate and you've got a pen and you'll say, no, the ears were like this, no, the coat was like this, I think that's far more important, and it's far more, it has far more weight as well as evidence as well.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah.
We'll see what the future holds.
Yeah.
It's a mad world out there, so we'll see how things turn out. But I'm very happy that these investigations are still being done and are still human work.
Yes,
I don't
absolutely.
think like that's one thing that machines will never like be able to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you very much for this enlightening conversation. I definitely have some food for thoughts. It's such a broad topic, and I am still such a novice in this.
Yeah, I mean, aren't we all? Aren't we all really?
I mean, you're a little less of a novice than I am.
Right. Okay.
I mean, it's your job after all. Right?
Yeah. Okay. I was being more just sort of a bit of flouncy and esoteric, and do we ever know anything? Okay, fine.
I mean, yeah, okay, I guess the only thing that I know is that I know nothing.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And for the people who want to know more about you, who want to read some of your work about some of the investigations that you have done and the spookies that you have found, where may the people find you?
Exclusively on TikTok. No, I'm not. I'm basically on all social media as Burials and Beyond. So I do have a TikTok under Burials and Beyond. I've started to make a lot of short form videos about supernatural history, folklore, things like that. Instagram, Burials and Beyond, Facebook, Burials and Beyond, my website, burialsandbeyond.com. It's just full of fun articles about strange history, weird folklore, ghosts, all that esoteric stuff, occult stuff, all that good stuff. And my personal website is katecherrell.com. So you can find me all over the internet. I also have a Patreon, which I really should plug more, which is patreon.com/burials and beyond. And I post loads of stuff there. There's tons of stuff every week about all manner of weird stuff. And it is lighthearted as well. It's not all very dry. I do some very funny podcasts on there as well. So it's not all screaming into darkness. Sometimes we have a laugh. Yeah.
Screaming into the abyss, hoping that it doesn't scream back. Yeah.
Story of my life. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I for this the preparation of this podcast, I have of course visited your website, read some of your articles, and what that really stood out to me was the was it like trapdoor casket?
Yeah.
That is something I never even imagined existing. The human ingenuity knows no boundaries.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've always treated our dead in new and interesting ways over the years. Yeah.
You can say that. Well, thank you very much. I will, of course, make sure that Andy, the founder of the podcast, he doesn't want me to call him the big boss, but he's the founder at the very least of the podcast.
Okay.
I'll make sure that he puts all the links in the description box down below. And of course, to our lovely, lovely audience, without whom this would be just me talking to random people and Lee talking a lot about aliens. That's his thing. I don't blame him. He's a little, it's fine. We're all mad here, so
yeah.
I need to get serious. To our lovely audience, Andy, please cut this. To our lovely audience, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. Without you, like I said, we really wanted to have a show. We wanted to have been able to have the interesting conversations that we have. So please do remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you're listening to this on Spotify, please do give us that 5-star rating. It is a little effort, but helps us out so much. Speaking of AI, the Spotify AI likes it when you give us 5 stars, pushes us out more, pushes the amazing conversations and guests like Kate out into the world. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I believe that's about to change, but do leave us a nice comment. And also on YouTube, leave something nice in the comments. We are checking the comments, so do be nice. And for everything else across the pond, visit our website, www.acrossthepondpodcast.co.uk, or find us on social media, Across the Pond Podcast, or Across the Pond YT for YouTube. Like I said, it's been a while since I've recorded for Across the Pond. I've been incredibly busy, so I need to remember all the things that we have here. Thank you all. Kate, thank you very much again. This has been a enlightening conversation, and not even somewhat spooky, but I've had spooky.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Somewhat spooky. I'll put that on my CV. That's an endorsement. Somewhat spooky. Cheers. Thanks. Right. Cool. Thanks for having me on. I'll see you later. Bye.
No, I don't mean it like that. Come on now. No, I need to shut up. Thank you all.
Yeah.
Until next time.